Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the film The Old Man and the Gun. This film was directed by David Lowery, who made a film that I really liked called Pete's Dragon. It's a remake of an older Disney film, but I really liked what he did with that about 2 years ago, I think is when it came out. And I know he's directed some other films, but I know that film for sure was one that kind of got me interested in kind of more of his work. I unfortunately didn't see A Ghost Story. I think that came out last year. I think that was his other most recent film too. But we're going to talk today about The Old Man and the Gun, which is his most recent film. It premiered at some film festivals recently and did really well there, and I can see why. This is a great film, and it's a very interesting story too. In The Old Man and the Gun, you guys, it's about a criminal named Forrest Tucker, and he's played by Robert Redford, which apparently is his last acting role, unfortunately. But it sounds like he's interested in directing and producing other projects if they come his way and they kind of interest him in the near future. But as far as acting is concerned, this is his last acting role, apparently. So he plays this criminal named Forrest Tucker, and he's known for robbing banks casually. You know how in a movie where when somebody robs a bank, there's a big deal. They're wearing a mask, they have a team of people. They tell everybody to get on the ground, and there's always a big deal about and stuff. Well, Forrest Tucker kind of took a different approach with this. What he did is he basically just did a fake mustache on his face, maybe did a couple things with his hair, put on a fake hat, maybe a hat that he doesn't normally wear, put on a jacket, always change out the jacket for each and every heist that he does. And he basically just goes up to the counter, finds the nearest person. Obviously, there's a little more to it than that he goes over in the film, but for the most part, he basically just goes up to one of the tellers, more than likely probably a younger girl or something like that, and he basically shows him his gun and his jacket and says, "This is a robbery." And so basically, he kind of just casually walked out. Obviously, whoever whatever teller was on duty informed the police about it by then and stuff like that. But for the most part, Forrest Tucker was getting away with all these robberies. And what he would do is, if he robbed a bank in Texas, he would rob a bank in Missouri maybe the following week, or he would go to Wisconsin, or he'd go to Illinois, or he'd go to Iowa. He would always go to different states to kind of do this, to kind of really mix it up, to really make sure that he's not getting caught and stuff like that. So over the course of this movie, he's getting away with this. He has friends who are also kind of criminals too, played by Tom Watts and Danny Glover, who do kind of help him and observe these banks and kind of figure out which banks might work out the best for their techniques and stuff like that. Because if there's basically just a bunch of old guys working the teller stations, it's probably not going to work as well and stuff like that. Um, but he was kind of considered a gentleman by doing this. He kind of found the most gentleman way of robbing a bank, really. And over the course of this film, there's a detective played by Casey Affleck who is basically trying to put this guy behind bars just because he did kind of do a lot of bad stuff. So it is kind of his time to go back to prison and serve the real jail time that he probably deserves for doing all this. And Sissy Spacek's in the film too. She kind of plays the love interest while all this is going on. And I don't know what's going on. Okay, there's something going on in my lip there. Sorry about that. And so basically, she's kind of the unofficial love interest. They kind of have a thing for each other, I guess, through over the course of the movie, but she kind of learns what he was doing, why he likes doing it, kind of how he makes up fictional names and fictional careers while he's pursuing all this and stuff like that. So all these things happen over the course of The Old Man and the Gun. So I really like this film a lot, you guys. Like I said, David Lowery really impressed me with Pete's Dragon a couple years ago, back when he remade that for Disney. And once again, he impressed me with this film. He really did find an interesting story to work with. I really think this is an interesting, true story about this guy that just kind of casually robbed a bank just to see if he could do it and stuff like that. Apparently, he was a pretty big deal as far as an escape artist goes. He found ways to escape prisons and do all this crazy stuff that you would never expect this guy to do. And so this guy really did have this really big criminal record, and just I don't know. I thought the overall movie was just really interesting, and just I was very interested and invested as a viewer to find out over the course of the movie, to kind of see where everything went and stuff like that. So let's go over some positives or negatives of this film. First and foremost, my big positive of the movie is it had a really interesting real life heist story to work with. I really thought that this guy really kind of had an interesting approach to this. Like I said, it wasn't this big elaborate heist that got the media's attention, and it was a much smaller kind of criminal. He really found a way to just kind of casually rob these banks. Because he would go to different states, people wouldn't recognize him right away and stuff like that. So it was just an interesting real life heist story, and I really liked that about this movie. And it was very different to other heist movies in that regard too. Robert Redford and Sissy Spacek, I thought, had really good intentional on and off chemistry in this film, and I say that because they kind of really don't trust each other, and I think that's what's kind of interesting about their chemistry is yes, they kind of trust each other. Yes, they'll tell each other things that maybe they wouldn't tell any other regular person off the street, but there's throughout this movie they kind of have a I trust you on this, I don't trust you on that. I trust you on that, but I don't trust you on this kind of a thing. And it's kind of interesting. It made their screen chemistry very interesting in the movie. I really like what the two of them did as far as screen chemistry went in the movie. Casey Affleck plays the detective that's trying to hunt down Robert Redford and his two gangster friends, or two criminal friends, I should say, Danny Glover and Tom Watts. He's trying to track down all three of these guys, but mostly Robert Redford's character specifically. But anyway, I thought there's a lot of moments where he gives his own kids this opportunity to kind of take your kids to work kind of day, to kind of see what their dad does for work and stuff. And I thought it was really cute when Casey Affleck kind of let his kids talk over the intercom in his police car, or show him how he would handle his work day, or what he would do, or how he would go about stuff. I just thought it was really cute how Casey Affleck handled that with these two child actors. It was very cute moments throughout the course of the movie with that. I also like the sense of humor this film had as far as, these guys being old, but they happen to be really nice about everything. But they are old, and you really kind of wouldn't expect someone of this age group to kind of commit these really horrible things like this and stuff. So there was a consistent sense of humor, and it really kind of worked well for this movie, I thought, too. David Lowery is also known for doing interesting things with his camera. I know for Ghost Story, he did a kind of interesting things like that with his camera and stuff like that. But in this film, what I thought worked really well is the film takes place in the early 80s, and there's kind of a early 80s film grain look that they use in the movie. You can definitely tell they used probably an older kind of video camera to film this, and as a result, it's really cool. It really did look like something that would come out of the early 80s or something like that. I really like the film grain look they went for in this movie. There's also a ton of jailbreak clips as far as showing what Robert Redford's character, like how he escaped prisons and what he had to do, and how he would, distract a guard in order to jump out a window, or go down a hallway, or dig his way out of the jail, or something like that. He had so many different ways of doing it, and the film does show that in a small montage at one point. And what's kind of cool about that montage too is I think they do use an actual clip from one of Robert Redford's older films to make it really look like you're watching a younger version of his character go through something. I don't think it was a digital effect, but I think they used a clip from one of his films to kind of bring that idea to life in front of the clips. So I thought that was kind of a cool way they did that. Really look for that clip if you see this movie, and look for that jailbreak montage. It really is kind of a neat thing they did with that, I thought. So I thought that sequence, and as far as kind of seeing him escape these prisons over the years, I thought was really cool too. For my negatives of The Old Man and the Gun, though, sometimes it shows rather than tells. For example, there's a scene where Tom Watts is trying to convince Robert Redford and Danny Glover, we really gotta rob a truck this time. We don't just gotta go in there and talk to the teller. We gotta go and rob a big truck, really make this one work this time, and really get a lot of money out of it. And what they do is, rather than show this, rather than let us experience kind of how that played out as an audience, what they do is they just kind of show us the aftermath of that. And unfortunately, that's not the only scene that does that. There's other scenes where they just kind of show you the aftermath, or the things that happened before the bank got robbed and stuff like that. So I thought personally that was kind of not so great on the screenwriting's behalf. But like I said, there's scenes where they really could have showed you a really darker moment, or a scene where maybe they're really stepping their game up for these robberies and stuff like that. But unfortunately, they just kind of show you the aftermath, so they do more showing rather than telling in certain scenes, which I thought was kind of unfortunate. But they only do it every so often. But like I said, they do it on occasion, so sometimes they show you rather than tell you certain things. I thought some of the areas in the film were kind of slow too. There's just certain moments where maybe Robert Redford and Sissy Spacek's character are just talking a little bit too long, or they're doing things in one of the houses, or they're just off doing something that really doesn't matter to the movie, and it just kind of slows the film down in certain areas. So I thought certain areas could have been either trimmed down in the editing room or just been removed completely. I also thought some of the end credit stuff they did right before the end credits start up was kind of just overall cutesy and too gimmicky for its own good. Like they would have these really cute little. They would cut to like a blue screen and there'd be like a yellow subtitle saying something, and then they'd go back to again. And I don't know. When you see the movie, it'll make sense. But I thought it was kind of neat when they first do it. Like, this is sort of a true story kind of a thing. And then they bring it up again, then they bring it up again, and then they bring it up again, and then they bring it up again. It's just like they could have just done something interesting as a movie rather than going back to these. Like these subtitle things and just kind of being cutesy and gimmicky. And I don't know. I thought the closer it got to the end credits and the more that they kept doing it, the more the gimmick kind of started to get stale for me, I guess. But overall, The Old Man and the Gun, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I really like this film a lot. It really is an interesting real life heist story. Robert Redford and Sissy Spacek have great screen chemistry in this. Casey Affleck has really tons of cute moments to work with his kids in this movie. Obviously, they're not his real kids, they're the kids in the movie. The sense of humor I thought was very effective. That early 80s film grain really worked cool, really make the film looked cool and everything. And the jailbreak clips I thought were really cool too. Like I said, though, it just shows you rather than tells you at times, unfortunately. And unfortunately, it is kind of slow in certain areas of the movie. And like I said, some of that end credit note stuff just kind of got cutesy and gimmicky after a while. And like I said, the closer you get to the actual end credits of the movie, kind of the more annoying it kind of gets to as a result. So 9 out of 10 for me. I really like The Old Man and the Gun. I highly recommend seeing it. Definitely up there with Pete's Dragon is a really good David Lowery movie. I definitely highly recommend The Old Man and the Gun.